All right, let's jump into another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be taking a look at ancient Sparta.
Oh, cool.
And, everyone knows about Sparta.
Yeah.
The warriors, the military, the fighting.
Abs.
The abs.
Yeah.
We're going beyond that today.
I like it.
And we're going to be uncovering some really fascinating things about their social structure.
Interesting.
We're going to be talking about the women,
Yes.
the helmets.
Uh-huh.
We're going to be, diving into the Agoge training system.
Oh, yeah, the Agoge.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And also we're going to be debunking some myths.
Oh, fun.
I love myth busting. This is going to be, think of this like Sparta, the remix.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. So Sparta.
Oh, the remix.
Sparta, the remix. All right. So.
Would it? Sparta, it's amazing how they still fascinate us, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like they represent this paradox.
Yeah.
Renowned for military might.
Right.
Really complex society.
Yeah.
And surprisingly progressive in some ways.
Yeah. Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit. You said complex social structure.
Yes.
Did you break that down?
Absolutely. So Spartan society, very hierarchical, right?
Okay.
3 main classes.
Okay.
At the top, the Spartiates.
Okay.
Full citizens, the elite, the warriors,
Mhm.
born into a life of privilege,
Right.
but also intense military dedication.
Right, from a very young age.
Very young, yeah.
And then beneath them,
You have the periokoi.
periokoi. Okay.
Free non-citizens. They lived in surrounding areas.
Okay.
Not considered true Spartans,
Right.
really, but vital to the economy.
Okay.
They focused on crafts, trade.
So they were the engine that kept
Yes,
things running.
the engine. Yes.
Essential but not equal.
Right.
And then there's the helmets, the ones we've all heard about.
Yes, the helots.
Yeah.
Essentially state-owned serfs.
Okay.
They were bound to the land,
Okay.
worked for the Spartan citizens,
Okay.
providing the agricultural labor.
Right. So that allowed the
Yeah.
Spartiates to focus on
Exactly.
training and governing and that.
Yeah, the military stuff.
Yeah, the military stuff. It's interesting how this system, though, it created stability, but also, the potential for its own downfall.
Right.
I mean, this reliance on the helmets, especially as Spartiate numbers dwindled,
Yeah.
it created kind of a volatile situation, wouldn't you say?
For sure. Absolutely. And this tension, this inherent inequality
Yeah,
definitely contributes to their decline.
yeah.
But before we get there, we got to talk about the Agoge.
Oh, the Agoge.
The Agoge, this system of education and training
Yes.
is really what set people apart.
Yeah, the Agoge, I mean, it's almost like synonymous with Spartan.
Yeah, it's like it is Spartan cult.
Right, yeah. And we often hear about how harsh it was.
Mhm.
But, what was its real purpose?
Yeah, so it wasn't just about creating these fierce warriors.
Okay.
It was a holistic system designed to mold ideal Spartan citizens.
Wow.
Loyal, strong,
Okay.
dedicated to the state.
Okay.
And it started young.
Like how young?
7 years old.
7.
7.
Wow. Could you imagine, listener? I mean, being separated from your family at 7
No.
to begin this rigorous training, it really shows how different
Mm-hmm.
their values were from our own.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And think about it. It was designed to erase individuality.
Wow.
Forge this collective identity,
Yeah.
centered on duty, discipline.
Duty and discipline. Wow.
Yeah. So boys lived communally, harsh conditions, limited food,
Mhm.
always emphasizing physical and mental toughness.
Wow.
I
Given,
know.
given the intensity of that, how do you think it impacted them, psychologically?
That's a great question. I think we can definitely say it instilled a remarkable level of resilience.
Mhm.
Right. They were conditioned to endure hardship,
Right.
suppress fear, to prioritize the state's needs above their own.
The needs of the state above their own from 7 years old.
Yeah.
Now, within that system, we also have to address the crypteia.
Oh, yeah.
It's a somewhat
It's
shadowy.
a little dark.
Yeah,
Yeah.
aspect of Spartan life.
It was a secret police force
Okay,
made up of young men who had completed the Agoge.
okay.
So historians debate the exact functions, right?
Yeah.
But we know one of the primary roles was keeping control
Yeah.
over the helot population.
So imagine, graduating from this incredibly demanding training
Yeah,
only to be tasked with basically spying on
Right.
and suppressing,
yeah,
another segment of your own society.
yeah. It's really interesting.
It speaks to, some real complexities
yeah.
and maybe
Mhm.
contradictions.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Within their society.
It really does.
But amidst this rigid structure, the Spartan women
Yeah.
held a surprisingly unique position.
Yeah, this is the cool part.
Right. Spartan women, I mean, they were known for having freedom and influence,
Yeah. Yes.
rarely seen in ancient Greece.
Yeah, in ancient Greece at the time.
Right.
Totally different, like Athenian women,
Yeah.
largely confined to the home.
Right.
But Spartan women,
Yeah.
autonomy,
Wow.
own property, inherit land,
Yeah.
engage in physical training.
I mean, that was unheard of.
Unheard of in most other Greek city-states.
What do you think contributed to that?
I mean, Spartan society, they recognized the vital role
Yeah.
women played,
Right.
right? I mean, the men were constantly off training, warfare.
Yeah, the men were busy.
The men were busy,
Yeah.
so women, they were running the show at home, managing households, estates,
Yeah.
even businesses.
Wow. So while the men were focused on war, the women became the backbone.
Exactly.
Their autonomy,
Yes.
social structure. It makes you wonder how things might have turned out if
Right.
that balance had
Right.
shifted even further.
What if? Yeah, it's really interesting. And it's important to remember that image of Spartan women
Yeah.
as like harsh, domineering,
Yeah.
that comes from later, like
Right.
Athenian
Right.
writings,
Right.
probably exaggerated.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's probably propaganda.
So you're saying Athenian writers might have been intentionally
Possibly.
distorting
Yeah.
the image of Spartan women
Yeah.
to make them look bad.
It makes sense. Right. I mean,
Oh,
they were
yes.
rivals.
That's quite a revelation.
Yeah.
And it really shows how important it is to really, analyze historical sources.
Yes, exactly. Be critical.
Especially when they come from,
Yeah.
people who might have had an agenda.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So speaking of challenging narratives, there was the whole wife-sharing custom in Spartan society.
Yeah, that's a wild one.
That's a wild one. I mean, still raises eyebrows today.
Definitely does.
But it was practiced for a specific reason,
Yeah.
right?
To ensure strong offspring.
Strong offspring for Sparta.
For Sparta, exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, remember, the Spartan population,
Yeah.
relatively small,
Yeah.
constantly under threat.
Yeah. So it was seen as bolstering their numbers.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ensuring the continuity of the warrior class. And it speaks to, how much they prioritize the collective good,
Yeah.
even over individual
Right.
desires.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it challenges our assumptions, right? About women in ancient Greece.
Yeah.
They weren't just passive. They
Yeah.
were active participants
Yeah.
in this system.
Right.
That while unconventional, it aimed to secure
Yeah.
their state's future.
And let's not forget, Siniska,
Oh, yes, and
the Spartan princess,
Yeah.
won Olympic chariot races. Talk about breaking barriers.
I know.
In a world
Yeah.
where women were often excluded from public life,
Yeah.
she becomes this
God.
symbol of Spartan ambition
Yeah.
and power.
She's like, I'm a woman. I'm here. What?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. So you see this dichotomy, right? This
Yeah.
society that was renowned for
right.
the discipline.
Discipline, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you see this dichotomy, right? This
Yeah.
society that was renowned for
Yeah, for the
in the tune,
militarism,
discipline.
Yet-
In some ways, they granted women more agency
way more.
than any other in ancient Greece.
Yeah. It's
This paradox just seems to deepen.
it deepens.
Yeah, the more
the more you look at it.
the more you look at.
The more you look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes them so interesting.
Right.
Yeah. It makes us question everything.
Yeah.
Right.
It challenges our assumptions.
It does.
It makes us,
Yeah.
look beyond the stereotypes. Yeah.
And really understand the complexities
Yeah.
of this civilization that still fascinates us.
Still, yeah, totally.
Centuries later.
Crazy.
Okay. Now, before we dive into some more controversial
Oh, yeah.
aspects
The juice.
of Spartan life
Yeah.
and the eventual downfall of this powerful city-state,
Mm-hmm.
let's take a moment to debunk some myths.
Okay. Love it.
Yeah. One of the most persistent myths
Mm-hmm.
is the ideas that weak Spartan infants
Oh, yeah.
were tossed off a cliff.
Mount Taygetus.
Mount Taygetus.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What's the truth behind that?
So this myth,
Yeah.
it's largely based on Plutarch.
Okay.
Who was a Roman historian.
Okay.
But he lived centuries after Sparta's peak.
Right. So it was way after the fact.
Yeah. And while Plutarch was a respected scholar,
Yeah.
you got to remember he was writing from a very different
Yeah.
cultural context.
Yeah.
Right? So we got to take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. Grain of salt. What does the archaeological evidence tell us?
Well, excavations at
Yeah.
the foot of Mount Taygetos
Yeah.
haven't found
Yeah.
infant remains.
Really?
No. The skeletons, all adults,
Wow.
likely criminals who were executed.
Oh. So it seems like Plutarch's tale
Yeah.
is more myth
Yeah.
than reality.
Than reality. That's a relief. Yeah, I know, right?
know.
I mean, it seems like even in ancient times, people embellished, exaggerated.
They like to tell stories.
They did.
So, it's a good reminder, listener, to be critical of the stories we hear,
Absolutely.
even the ones passed down through
Yeah.
history.
Totally.
All right. Speaking of historical myths,
Yeah.
let's tackle another one.
Okay.
The Spartan iron bar currency.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any truth to that?
Right.
I mean, imagine, going to the grocery store and trying to buy
Yeah, try to, yeah.
you got your groceries with a chunk of iron.
I know. So
Yeah.
it is true that Spartans discouraged the accumulation and display of wealth.
Okay.
But the iron bar currency, probably an exaggeration.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Archaeological evidence suggests
Yeah.
they used coins
Okay.
like other COVID Greek city-states.
So they weren't just walking around with these giant chunks of iron.
No, they had style.
Yeah, yeah.
We found
Yeah.
Spartan art,
Yeah.
bronze work,
Beautiful things.
beautiful things.
So they weren't as austere
They weren't, yeah,
as some accounts make it out to be.
not as much.
So they had an appreciation for beauty
Peacenik.
and craftsmanship. They just weren't, flaunting their...
in riches, that bling, yeah.
It paints a much more nuanced picture, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah. Okay. Myth busting aside, let's shift gears and talk about Sparta's eventual decline.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So
We've talked about the tension between the Spartians and the Helots, but
right.
what were the key factors?
So their rigid social structure,
Okay.
big one.
Okay.
As the Spartan population dwindled,
Okay.
the Spartan population dwindled,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
War,
Yeah.
low birth rates, all these things,
Yeah.
their reliance on the Helots
Yeah.
became a problem.
It became too much.
It became too much. It was unsustainable.
So the very system that
Yeah.
gave them
Yeah.
stability for so long
Yeah.
became their
Became their downfall.
Achilles heel.
Exactly.
Now, what about their military dominance?
Yeah.
I mean, we think of them as these
Right.
invincible warriors.
Right.
That couldn't last forever.
Nothing lasts forever.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Their defeat at the Battle of Leuctra,
okay.
371 BC,
Okay.
against the Thebans,
Okay.
that was a turning point.
Really?
Yeah.
Just shattered that myth of Spartan invincibility.
Okay.
And it exposed the, vulnerabilities of their military system.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it?
Oh, totally.
I mean, as society.
Yeah. So focused on, warfare, ultimately brought down by a, superior
Yeah.
military strategy.
Wild.
But even in defeat, they still had their laconic wit.
Ah, yes. Their humor.
Right.
That dry, concise
Yeah.
humor.
Yeah.
Remember Philip of Macedon
Oh, yeah.
threatened to invade?
Yeah, he sent that message.
That message. If I invade Laconia, you will be destroyed, never to rise again.
And what did the Spartans say?
If.
If.
Classic dark.
Speaking facing, a formidable foe, they refused
I
to
do.
back down,
Oh,
maintain their
yeah.
spirit. It's almost like they were
Yeah.
determined to go down fighting.
With their wit intact.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
So it speaks to that, unwavering
Yeah.
belief in themselves
Yeah.
and their way of life.
Yeah. Their way of life, even if it was, outdated,
But despite their defiance, they still had to confront
yeah.
the rising power of Macedon.
Right.
So how did they navigate that?
Yeah, good question. I mean, Alexander the Great, right?
Yeah.
Philip's son.
Yeah.
He wanted to unite the
Yeah.
Greeks against the Persian Empire.
Did Sparta
Yeah.
join his alliance?
No, they did not join the League of Corinth.
Oh, wow.
They saw it as a threat
Right.
to their autonomy.
So independence
Yeah.
was paramount.
Paramount. They were willing to stand alone,
Wow.
even against these crazy.
Even if it meant facing
Yeah.
incredible odds.
Yeah, true.
So while other Greek city-states are rallying behind Alexander, Sparta's no, we're good.
They're like, no.
Yeah. What were the consequences of that?
Well, after Alexander, crushed the Persians.
Yeah.
At the Battle of Granicus River,
Yeah.
he sent this message to Athens.
Okay.
300 suits of captured Persian armor inscribed. Alexander, son of Philip, and all the Greeks except the Spartans dedicate these spoils taken from the barbarians who dwell in Asia.
Ouch. That must have stung.
It must have.
Yeah.
Oof.
So he was rubbing it in their faces.
Yeah, big time.
Look
Yeah.
how, isolated you are.
Yeah, totally.
But I mean, they still clung
They still did, yeah.
to their independence.
Spurn.
Their resistance continued, even as Alexander's empire grew. I mean, it's fascinating how this small city-state that was you know, so powerful at one point, held on to its identity, even as the world around them was transforming.
That's amazing.
But did their autonomy last?
Well, in 192 BC, after a series of conflicts, Sparta was forced into the Achaean League.
Oh, wow.
And that was the end of their political independence.
So after centuries of defying empires and defending their way of life, they finally...
It's bittersweet.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a final chapter in this long, turbulent history.
It makes you wonder if you know, their unwavering adherence to tradition ultimately contributed to their downfall.
Did it?
Right.
Yeah.
So the paradox continues.
It does.
Yeah.
This tension between strength, rigidity, tradition, adaptation, it played out.
It played out big time.
Yeah, big time.
But what happened to Sparta after that?
Yeah.
I mean, did they just vanish?
No, they didn't vanish.
No.
Even under Roman rule, Sparta was like a place of fascination.
Oh.
Roman tourists, they blocked there. See, you know, the custom.
So the people that conquered them were now like fascinated by them.
Yeah, it's
ironic. It's like they become a living museum.
A living museum, exactly.
It's a relic.
It speaks to the power of the myth, right?
Yeah.
Even in defeat, their story resonated. You know, it captures the imagination of people.
So it's a story of incredible highs and lows, military might, eventual decline.
Right.
But even in their final chapters, there's a sense of like defiance.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like holding on to their identity in the face of overwhelming change. I mean, it makes you wonder, listener, what is it about Sparta that continues to captivate us?
All these centuries later. I think it's that blend of discipline, the courage, you know, and that unwavering commitment to their ideals, even when those ideals were ultimately unsustainable.
Right.
You know, they represent this fascinating, albeit flawed experiment in social engineering, a society that pushed the boundaries, you know, of human endurance, societal norms.
It's a story that it challenges our assumptions about ancient Greece, about the roles of men and women, about the nature of power, the fleeting nature of glory. And perhaps that's why thousands of years later, we're still drawn to them.
Still drawn in.
Still trying to figure out this.
Still trying to decipher it.
The enigma that was Sparta. Yeah.
But remember, like we said, the reality is far more complex and nuanced than that popular image, you know?
It's a story filled with like contradictions. Moments of greatness, brutality, triumphs, tragedies.
All of it.
And it's a story that continues to resonate, you know, reminding us of human resilience, the allure of a bygone era, and this enduring fascination with those who dared to live differently, you know, forge their own path, even if that path ultimately led to their demise.
It's true.
It strikes me that much of what we know about Sparta comes from outside sources, often filtered through you know, their own biases, agendas.
Right.
It's like we're trying to see a clear image through layers of frosted glass.
Yeah, it's what some historians call the Spartan mirage.
The Spartan mirage?
Yeah, like this idealized, demonized image of Sparta created by non-Spartan writers.
So it makes it hard to...
Yeah, it makes it tricky, you know.
Separate fact from fiction.
Yeah.
But it's also what makes it so fascinating.
It does. It's like we're piecing together this complex puzzle with missing pieces.
And it's a puzzle worth solving because as we've seen, Sparta offers some valuable insights into human nature, the dynamics of power.
Absolutely. Yeah, for instance, their system, right?
Yeah.
Undeniably harsh. But it contains stability for centuries.
How? How did they manage that?
I mean, their commitment to tradition and their ability to adapt to challenges, those were key.
So they were like masters of resilience. And let's not forget
their propaganda.
Mastery of propaganda.
I mean, those laconic sayings, the stories of their bravery, like at Thermopylae, they created this image of strength, unities that resonated throughout the ancient world.
It's a reminder that perception can be just as powerful as reality.
time.
Especially when it comes to kids.
Especially when it comes to shaking those narratives. They understood that.
Sparta got it.
They got it, yeah.
Used it to their advantage. So Sparta, I mean, they were admired, feared in their time. Do you think their legacy offers any lessons?
It's a good question. I mean, on one hand, we can learn from, their discipline, their focus on community, their ability to adapt, overcome adversity.
But on the other hand, we have to acknowledge the dark side.
Right. The rigid social hierarchy, suppression of individual freedom, the reliance on forced labor.
Right. It's a complicated legacy.
It is.
One that we can't just romanticize or dismiss.
No.
Sparta forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths about power, equality, and the choices societies make when they face adversity.
It's true. It serves as a cautionary tale, I think.
Yeah.
Even the most powerful civilizations aren't immune to the effects of inequality, rigidity.
It also highlights how important it is to think critically, to question narrative, and to recognize the multifaceted nature of history.
And that's the beauty of history, right? Yeah. We get to engage with those complexities, learn from the past, and hopefully build a better future.
Well said. So there you have it, folks.
Yeah, there it is.
Our deep dives into the world of ancient Sparta.
So much to learn.
We've explored their social structure, debunked myths, analyzed their rise and fall, and even grappled with that complicated legacy.
It is complicated.
Hopefully, this has given you a more nuanced understanding of this fascinating and often misunderstood civilization.
Absolutely.
And as we wrap up, we'll leave you with a final thought-provoking question.
Okay, hit me.
What aspect of Spartan society, both positive and negative, do you see reflected in our world today? It's something to consider as you continue your own exploration of history and the human condition.
Good stuff.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's a good one. It really is.
Yeah.
Makes you think.
It does. It does. But their story, I mean...
Yeah.
It doesn't end there, does it?
No, it doesn't. In 396 AD, the Visigoths, led by Alaric, they sacked Sparta.
Wow.
And that was the beginning of like a long, slow decline.
So the city just kind of faded into the shadows of history.
Faded away.
But even though...
The physical city crumbled that legend. Right. It lived on.
So it's this story of like incredible highs and lows, military might, and eventual decline.
Yeah.
But even in those final chapters, there's that sense of defiance.
Yeah.
Holding on to their identity even when...
Even when things were changing.
Things were changing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes you wonder, what is it about Sparta that continues to captivate us all these centuries later?
I think it's that potent blend, discipline, courage, unwavering commitment to their ideals, even when those ideals were ultimately unsustainable.
Right.
It's a fascinating, albeit flawed, experiment in social engineering. This society that pushed the boundaries of, human endurance and societal norms.
It's a story that challenges our assumptions about ancient Greece, about the roles of men and women, the nature of power, and the fleeting nature of glory. And perhaps that's why thousands of years later, we're still drawn to
their story. We're still trying to figure out this enigma that was Sparta. It's true. And remember, like we said, the reality is far more complex and nuanced than that popular image.
Right. It's a story filled with contradictions, moments of greatness and brutality, triumphs and tragedies.
Yeah.
And it's a story that continues to resonate.
It does.
It reminds us of human resilience, the allure of a bygone era, and this enduring fascination we have with those who dared to live differently, forged their own path, even if that path ultimately led to their demise.
That's it. That's Sparta.
That's Sparta. All right, well, there you have it, folks. Our deep dive into the world of ancient Sparta. We've explored their social structure, debunked myths, analyzed their rise and fall, and even grappled with that complicated legacy.
Yeah, we did it.
We did it. Hopefully this has given you a more nuanced understanding of this fascinating and often misunderstood civilization.
It really is fascinating.
And as we wrap up, we'll leave you with this final thought-provoking question. What aspects of Spartan society, both positive and negative, do you see reflected in our world today? It's something to consider as you continue your own exploration of history and the human condition.
It's a big one.
It is a big one. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
See you next time.